Hey, welcome, welcome,
Welcome,
welcome
welcome.
to the Intrinsic
Intrinsic
podcast. This
podcast.
is this is gonna be live until we launch our podcast via Spotify, Apple, all that stuff, all that good stuff. So for now, we're gonna be doing our lives here. Thank you for showing up and coming out.
Thank you, thank
What's
you.
up? What's up?
Yeah,
Okay,
today,
cool.
we're just talking about, we're going to be talking about three things. So, intrinsic on its own, extrinsic, and the third is the binding force. I guess we can go. So, you wanted to talk about, I guess, the explanation of the word or the meaning of intrinsic, yes?
Yes, let's start there. Let's tell the people what is an intrinsic, I want to
Being
say,
aware
state of
of
mind or being,
it being. Okay. Um,
and what is an extrinsic. So we'll start with intrinsic.
okay. So all of those three forms, so intrinsic, extrinsic, and binding force, they all work together. But the main and most necessary one is your intrinsic force. It can be likened to instincts, spiritual forces, energies you feel, sixth sense. That intrinsic force is something that it's to explain it, abilities that we have or feelings that we have for things we can't comprehend why we do. And the ability to utilize and know it is dug within the self. So through self study, understanding one's own mind, trying to strengthen your thoughts of yourself. When you become more yourself, when you're finding your path, you'll start to notice that you start feeling things a bit more intrinsically. You start gaining more knowledge about stuff. You can kind of feel that someone's going to call you on your phone. There's a sense, there's a feeling to it. And the intrinsic method is generally gained through self study and meditation. Like I feel like something that we've been lacking as a species is kind of something that was untaught to us. We started off with that ability. Like when we were children, we had the ability to just kind of know and kind of feel things. You could explain sentences without saying words, just like what happened earlier. Like your little ones were like, they were explaining something to you, but weren't using the words, but you knew exactly what they meant. And it was an intrinsic feeling. There was an energy that gave you the explanation. It sent something, a signal to your body and to your mind, and you're able to understand it. And I feel that is a natural skill that we all have. And as we grow as a species, as a culture, as a people, I think that's something that will increase. So, like, the more we start to find out who we are, the more we start to understand ourselves, it allows us to understand each other more because we all understand the same. We all want to live the same way. We just don't want to be dicks to each other. It's pretty much the general concept is like we all want everyone to generally prosper and have our have our freedom to live comfortably.
Okay, so
Okay, so
intrinsic would
intrinsic
be
would be
here. I go sorry. Intrinsic would
intrinsic would
be the innate
be the
ability to
innate
know
ability
self.
to know self.
Yes,
Okay,
Okay,
and
and
extrinsic.
extrinsic.
so
You gotta turn
You
extrinsic.
your
gotta turn
volume
your
down
volume down
My volume still
just a little bit.
just a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
better.
I think so.
I think so.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Um, so the extrinsic, essentially, extrinsic would be everything that exists outside of your ability to understand. So everything outside of your body. So intrinsic would be everything you understand from within your own body or your flesh, your feelings, your senses. and the extrinsic is everything that exists around. So the walls, the television, people, people's minds, people's thoughts. Those are things of the extrinsic world. Now, as I said, like the realms of both intrinsic and extrinsic and the binding force, they have to apply to each other because for us to understand anything that is an extrinsic value, so anything outside of ourselves, the binding force is what allows us to be able to comprehend it. So we open our eyes, we see things, we see people, we see cars, doors, everything that you see. The fact that your brain can look at an object, I can look at this, I can look at that, and from me seeing it, from it sending a signal back to my brain that it exists, that that is the binding force. That in between time frame of like I know that something is a thing. I can feel that something is a thing. But there's also the much greater and more in depth forms of the extrinsic because the thing is the extrinsic world is as as beautiful and I would say equally as beautiful as the intrinsic world. But it can be, I guess, can be confusing depending on. But with the extrinsic forces, because we have like basic senses that we can understand: hearing, sight, sound, touch, taste. We can understand and comprehend those things of the extrinsic. And there are other forces that are outside of that realm. Where, as I was saying, with that concept of the intrinsic, you being able to feel something like if you walk into a room and you can feel someone, you can feel the energy of a room, or you can feel the energy off of a person. That that is from that realm of the extrinsic. There is something that is there. That energy is prevalent, even though it's not in the physical form. There's also an energy that exists. You can feel it and comprehend that it is there without actually having to be direct and grasp it or conceive it. And the extrinsic world, although it is as vibrant, I would say that they are equal in their beauty between both the intrinsic and the extrinsic, but there is a danger to the extrinsic world. It
We will get there.
and
We'll get
it,
there. So let's roll back. Let's roll back a second.
yeah.
That's part. We're gonna get back to that. So just to kind of simplify the differences a little bit, we were talking about how intrinsic comes off like intuition or instinctual inner value, right? Like
Mhm.
that's that knowing that you have within that you are you, I am I, and everything around me is me as well, right?
Yes.
And then for the extrinsic now, which you were just talking about, the intrinsic is like the output of the inner world, which is why the two cannot coincide without one another.
Yes.
Okay, so we just to break it down even a little bit more, because we were talking about them being realms and not just states of inner being.
Yes. Yes.
Like I said, we just identified that intrinsic is intuition and instinctive. So extrinsic is more like the physical spiritual world or the spiritual world too, because
Yes. The physical, it's the physical and the spiritual world. So it's
it's the physical.
essentially everything that we can comprehend that exists outside of us is the extrinsic. So um, any any forces that exist. So just to skip objects, I'm just going to skip outside of objects, and we're just going to go to anything that actually can give you notice that it is there. So animals, people, um, and sorry, definitely things from the spiritual world because we can feel their presences. Understand that we have enough knowledge and enough history in our species to know that there is an outside realm. Even if you even take it in religiously. religions speak of um, the greater realm, or I guess the realm of like the gods, the angels, demons, spirits. So that world has been known. It's something that we feel, but we can't fully understand. We feel it
For sure,
intrinsically
yeah.
because we know, and like that, I would say is strangely more understood, or I guess to individuals who, when you find yourself, you will be able to notice that you will find that you are more closer related to the realm of spirits than you are to the physical realm, because you start to notice the changes of how our current physical world, there's a lot of beings that have lost their intrinsic values within themselves, so they don't take the time to understand what they can feel, what they can sense, comprehend, and with with that as a distraction, it for anyone who is intrinsic and can feel and can sense these things, they start to notice that people start to kind of plateau in their beings. You start to notice that they have potential to be anything or to do anything, but like they kind of get stuck in a realm where they're trapping themselves because they're not looking within themselves to find and study their own energies, their own beings, to increase how much they can grow, essentially, because that would be the general idea. It's like the more you understand yourself, the more you're capable of being able to grow, the more you're able to learn, and more you're able to do because you grew more and more.
Okay, now we're pushing in a different direction now. So like we're gonna move into the positive and the negative manifestations of these realms. And by what I mean by positive and negative manifestations, when there is balance between the two realms within oneself, there are likely to be more positive manifestations to come out of that.
Yes.
If you're doing too much of one or the other, you're setting yourself up for a negative manifestation automatically. Like you can't be too intrinsic and you can't be too extrinsic within existence. That's where you're missing that equal value of binding force that's available for you, which actually is all you really need.
Okay. I I would say I agree and partially disagree in terms of, because thinking about it, if you went to pure intrinsic focus, which I feel like that's what like monks and people who, oh, there we go. So like the monks that we've heard of from like different cultures, religions, they pretty much focus on the intrinsic realm at their maximum level of focus. So, you're, hey, it's good. Can you see me?
I can see you.
Oh, okay, perfect, perfect, perfect.
Can you
Yes.
hear me good?
So, yeah, I can hear, I can hear. So, uh, the monks, they pretty much spend and devote their lives. So, it isn't necessarily a good thing either, because it's like they would spend their entire existence, their entire being, learning to focus, learning to focus from within. And from when once they reach that maximum level of being able to understand themselves from within, I feel that they will have achieved a oneness with the universe, which would kind of skip them past us, so that they would be feeling everything from the extrinsic world, but unaffected by it. And sorry, by being unaffected by it, that can be a negative concept, because it's like it's like doing the perfect nothing, but it's perfect, but it's also nothing, right? So it's like there isn't any real essential functioning growth for the whole. It can be used as a function for the whole because once they get to that like perfect state of oneness, then they can explain what it is, which is how we've had like Buddhist monks, Gandhi, a few other individuals explain how that like oneness vibration is, and then they explain that so that people can learn. So it's like I feel that that's what you would get from like maximum intrinsicness. So it's like it can kind of be bad because you're not really doing anything until you reach maximum state to be like, oh, guys, I'm actually one with everything. So I was always
Weird.
doing something, but I didn't have to. So it's like
That's
from
like
the outside,
when
it
you're
would
in your
seem weird.
physical body,
Yes,
right? When you leave your physical body, when you reach that extreme sense of intrinsic, because you enter that realm, you fully
hmm
enlighten it, and I think a lot of those monks were doing it to also to prove to people that they didn't need to be scared of death and that people don't
yes.
die
Number one.
and that energy recycles. So
Yes.
I commend them for that effort, because that's an extreme way
That,
to show somebody to prove a point, you know,
to show that there is something beyond and that there is no
beyond us.
need to hold in the fear. I
Hmm.
think it's that so as we're talking back and forth with like the concept and the differences between the intrinsic and the extrinsic fear, right? I guess those monks used that the meditation to help people get past that the simplest and most basic fear that we all have, which is the fear of death.
Yeah.
That one pretty much holds governance over everything, over all fears. Every fear that we have as beings pretty much is summarized down into that. But when you start to gain more of your intrinsic knowledge and intrinsic self, you without reaching that state of or the more you do that is like you're gaining of that same energy as the monks. You start to feel the realm outside because as you were saying that there essentially isn't such a thing as death. It's more it's a transfer of energy. Like our physical bodies may be gone, but the energy that exists in us, like, and I would say that that itself is probably even an intrinsic value because like to have past lives, to have memories of past lives and things like that, for it to come back means that your being is stated. That is your being. So you can go away, energies change form, but this will always be your being. It will always be an amalgamation of the your soul, your mind, and whatever body. And like all three of those will keep connecting back every time as you we go through the infinite like recycle of life. And that intrinsic meditation, that intrinsic understanding kind of gets you more in tune with that knowledge. And when you are in tune with that knowledge to a heightened degree, you can do a lot of things with that. Like you can gain knowledge from the collective, like the collective consciousness. Like I feel like what we get
Yeah.
for inspirations, for dreams, ideas, concepts, things that we have no idea. Like anytime someone was inspired in time, every inventor, any physicist, theologist, the classical, the people who were making classical music back in like this, like where did that come from? How did they know to do this and to
Yeah.
do it so perfectly and to the point where everybody to this day now knows it? How did they figure that out? And it's like they're pulling that from a system of energy that exists outside of us, but is also like from a same system of energy that they knew themselves. Their beings have always had that pulling in of like all the three until it reaches a body where you can kind of make it be known in the physical world in some way. And then
So
obviously it makes
definitely,
changes to
sorry, didn't mean to cut.
no no
So
no that's okay.
definitely, like, just to summarize what you're saying. So definitely, intrinsic is collective consciousness. it's access to collective consciousness, or what we
Yes,
were talking
access
about
access to
earlier,
collective
Akashic
consciousness.
records, which is like
Hmm.
the hub
The
of
depth, like the
all
deeper form. Yeah,
information, the hub of all knowing, the hub of all beings, right? So I wanna bring it back to extrinsic now, because I want to talk about
the
the
difficulties.
if one stays in their in the extrinsic realm. One of the things that was coming up for me was that I guess one of the best ways to describe it is worship is extrinsic, right? Worship is
Extrinsic.
extrinsic
You
because
worship, idolize.
you're relying on an outside of self knowing of your purpose and your why.
Yes, you're trying
The
to make your
the
purpose
only place
be
to
something
find
from
that
the
knowing
external.
and that purpose is to look within yourself. So you still need your extrinsic realm to be able to identify and figure out what's going on around you within yourself. But those are self-destructive
If if
extrinsic values that one can hold.
yes, if um if if a being's main purpose is copying from the extrinsic without looking within. So if you're not taking the time to try and understand what you really want, what your wants are in life, who are you? Taking the time to really ask yourself and really figure out these questions is like the purpose of your being. But the complication with the world that we have is not like there's also a lot of difficulties too because like sometimes the extrinsic world is like aggressive. Like aggressive problems that come from the outside world can make it very difficult to focus on the end because you had what's the a traumatic experience or yeah, essentially a traumatic experience at any point in your life will, if you don't govern yourself, it will take over and take control. And now your whole entire being is now based off of what you see from the outside world. You want the outside world to either look at you a specific way because your only current thoughts are thinking that you only matter or your existence only has value if it's seen from others, which is
Mm.
definitely not true. And
This is where we're living right now, right? That's what
yeah, yeah,
a
like
lot
that's
of the people are experiencing. They're experiencing a hard time binding their forces. They're
mm,
stuck in the extrinsic realm of being, which is everything they're hearing outside of themselves, everything that they see outside of themselves. They're not bringing that knowing within to know deep down inside, yo, I'm okay. This is
yes,
a thing, it's happening, but everything is gonna pass. I'm
yeah,
gonna I'm gonna have my food. I'm gonna have my children are gonna be safe. Everything is gonna be the way it's supposed to be because I know deep down inside, deep down in my heart, innately that all is good.
yes,
Which is like
you're
the protective mechanism from indulging too much in the extrinsic realm.
yes,
Because someone
which is
who's truly intrinsic knows that they can't sit outside of themselves too much, so they don't.
someone who's truly intrinsic can't sit outside of
Intrinsic.
themselves too much. Yes, yes,
They don't indulge in the outside world in an extreme fashion because they know that it's going to be hard for them to pull themselves back within.
yes, yes. Oh, absolutely. Like think about it this way. Um, how many how many times have you seen situations where you could do like even from my perspective, like I've had lots of times of like being able to do some hood shit and like, oh, I can make a profit off of it. I could do this or that, da 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 da. But what do I have to sacrifice? Can I even pull myself back from it if it actually becomes a thing? If it actually works? And it's like, how many people are strong enough to be able to keep themselves doing and living in that realm of the extrinsic world outside of themselves? You won't be able, like, the mind can't last that long. Because think about it. You live 20, 30 years of doing whatever, and then what happens? At the end, you're going to either be completely miserable, hyper depressed. So it's you're changing what your outcomes of existence are. You're gonna, like, as you reach your old age, if people even make it that far, depending on what path you're taking by trying to rely on the extrinsic, you could you could give yourself a painful last bit of existence in like old age. Like, I kind of feel, to a degree, that's kind of what I kind of think Alzheimer's is like a function of that, because it's like you never in your life apologized or forgave yourself or worked on doing the things that you actually wanted to do, and you never actually followed through with that in your life. So as you get older, your mind gets caught thinking about the things that you were doing, and then you get lost in your mind and have, like, because now your mind is trying to create that world for you as it's your last bit, but then it all just becomes a broken hell. Like, nothing makes sense anymore because you're sitting there like, I spent all this time doing what? And then you're like, oh, that world is the world that I wanted it to be. And so you start creating that delusion. So it's like your last bit can be kind of happy. Like, to be honest, like, I would say for the most part, a lot of people, like dementia and stuff like that, like, they do seem relatively happy because they're not thinking. They're not thinking about anything. They're kind of just, hey, like, just kind of like zooped out and just like all spirits, like they're high all the time. They're just like feeling the spirits because they're just like, there's a lot going on here. I'm just gonna just ride the wave. But at the same time, it's also like they can keep their cognizance. Like, there's something that I feel that is heavily missed in our world right now, and that is like the teaching of elders.
Mm.
We don't have like elders like that anymore, and like that's what we need. We really need them to kind of help, kind of guide the path of the youth. Like, I think our generation might be the generation that is closer to that. I think like the closest generation prior to us that did that were like all like the hippies from the '60s. They are our version of that. We have those guys as the elders. Like, they have this energy. They know, they understand. They can feel the presences of the spirits. But that same basis is that upon focusing too much on the extrinsic allows one to follow a path of self destruction. You stop paying attention to the direction of your being, and then that's when you also start to notice like all kinds of messed up shit keeps happening constantly. You're gonna have this problem, that problem, this problem, that problem. You're stressing all this time. This is wrong, that is wrong. Da, 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 da. You keep hitting these walls because you keep drifting too far from your true self. And then if you get too far, it's hard to find how to come back. It's hard to find how to get back to yourself, how to reach an intrinsic value. Sometimes it can be done. It can be done through like using intrinsic forces to find yourself. So it's
Mm.
like you kind of, so say you're very fast money type of life, this and that, very focused on the extrinsic world, not knowing who you are, but then you start to pay attention to like the spirits and like energy and stuff like that. So the more you start paying attention to the spirits and energy and stuff like that, you start to kind of feel yourself a bit more. And you're like, oh, wait a second, hang on a second. I can feel that I can feel this. And then you start understanding yourself more. Like that, I feel would be like the way to kind of get the cogs back going. But it's still, it would be a difficult process to do regardless. Because when you're lost, how hard is it to find yourself by yourself, right?
Okay. Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. I'm getting this like download about talking about childhood growing up, like when you're growing up. Well, we grew up together, so we already
Hmm.
know. But
Yeah.
I remember personally when I was growing up that I had a lot of quiet. I spent a lot of time by myself. So I remember being so engulfed in the intrinsic world because I was trying to escape my reality that
Mm.
I don't have memory of a lot of my childhood.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. That monk. That's that monk method that I was saying, where it's like
Yeah,
it's not good nor bad, but it's also like if you don't reach that full end, which this technically the existence that you live now is a byproduct of that. So it's not necessarily bad.
no, it's not necessarily bad because now as an adult, I am grateful that I have that ability to, no matter where I am, I could be in the middle of a mall and there could be a shooting happening. I can slow the world down for myself so that
Hmm.
I'm calm and I can create that protection energy. I can call my ancestors in that moment and be like, I
Hmm.
really need you now with me, and I can get out of that place. So
Yep.
I've been able to control energies in nightclubs where a fight will be
Yep.
breaking out and I could feel that the fight's going to break out because I could feel
Oh
the tension and the
yeah.
energy happening, and I would roll up in there. Like this one time I actually stepped in the middle of these two guys and I was just like,
Oh, diffuse it.
hey,
Like,
how you doing? I'm like, get distracted by me. Like,
Murph,
please don't
you
fight in this
win.
place. Like,
Yes.
this is not a place to be doing this right now.
Yes.
It's
See,
amazing when
that's
you can tap into that part of
yes.
yourself.
That's the strength. That's the true form of that strength. That's the true form of being able to utilize it because you can shape worlds, you can
Yeah,
shape the environment, you can change the energy of a room. That
yeah,
what that shows is that is your intrinsic level is so your knowledge of the intrinsic realm is so strong that it increases your range of what you feel you can comprehend, and then that means that everything from the extrinsic world, whatever situation is happening, it's all being present to you now because you hit the connection between those. Your binding force, that is like a domain. It's an energy. It's an area of energy that you can kind of command in certain ways. Like there's probably more direct forms of doing it, but like the way to do it is like how you had gone through. You just kind of went in there like, hey guys, like change the energy. Boom, fight's gone. People are laughing after that, smiles, energy, people change. And you're like, I did this, my power. This is my domain. I don't want to see this. And you changed it
hmm
because it's like you were able to sense from within everything without.
that's with that already. Yeah, and
Yeah.
especially in childhood, I was able to feel people from time. I'll tell you a little bit of a personal story too.
Okay.
Somebody from back in the day, I'm not going to say anybody specifically, but it was somebody that was very close to my mom and very close to me and my brother. And we hadn't seen them for a really long time. And it went by. Things were kind of awkward and weird because it had been a while since I had been, like years since I had been around that. They were supposed to be in my life, right?
Okay.
And I felt this energy of standoffishness. There was an
Mm.
intent that initially was the motive of us meeting up, but my energy at the time, I realized after the fact, was blocking that person from attempting to do me harm
To do
because
you
their
harm.
intent was actually to do me harm. They
Ah,
wanted
you
to
can
get
feel
me
them.
alone in a space by
You
myself.
can feel the malice.
I could feel the malice. I could feel the energy of the ill intent. And I remember just being like this and watching everything. I was that big eyed child that was like, you big eyes, you always watching everything. Like, yeah, I watched everything. And two things after the fact, years down the line, when I'm like maybe 21, I found out that this person was incarcerated for killing women and
Holy
actually was raping his own children.
God damn. Yo, you can
And
feel
I
it.
was
See,
alone in a space with this individual and I could feel it. And it was almost like my ancestors were there with me, like my great
that's
grandmother,
probably what
my
also
great
shut him down
aunties
too. That's probably also what shut him down. Because that's the thing. It's like,
blocked him. Like, she's not the one.
yeah,
And up to this day, like, I have to give gratitude for those things. Like, you can't, like, nobody can tell me that my ancestors don't exist or that, I'm not protected by angels or that we all don't have that available, that access to us too. It's just a
hmm,
matter of tapping into it and
yes,
recognizing it. So that's where now I can actually balance out the extrinsic and the intrinsic of my life, right? I understand the value of everything around me as well, which is why gratitude for the things that you have is important,
hmm,
which is why gratitude for how far you have come and where you are today is important. Because
hmm,
even if the experiences were bad, or if you felt you were too extrinsic or too intrinsic at some point in your life, at the end of the day, there was a valuable lesson to be learned in being in those realms at those times. And
hmm,
what reinforces that understanding of both.
yes. Like I agree
So if
wholeheartedly on the
someone
concept, and
was,
like as well, there's something else that you'd said. Having gratitude for the situation, and like
mm,
it's like your energy. It's like feeling good. There's something that I was in this reading. The shoot out a name. The guy's name was Kevin Trudeau. I don't even know what the dude looks like, but he did like a very good I guess like a speaker of some sort. Um, and there was something that he said in that speech. It was about how you kind of manipulate like the law of attraction. So it's like, which is through the same concept of like intrinsic values, like how you were able to your own strength, being able to tap into yourselves allowed you to tap into your ancestors to give that level of pressure and prevalence around. It's also this. It's another word for that as well, which is the law of attraction. So it's like
mm,
you'll create those situations for that. Like I think like so that law of attraction is like that other realm of like the spiritual intrinsic. Hey, there she is. My bunny hopped up on the couch. Oh, it's cute. There she is. Oh, come
show her
here.
off. Let's see her.
Come here, Baba.
So cute.
You gonna run? No, you gonna run? Ah, she's running. Okay. I'll show her next time if I can get her. But like she hopped up, so it's good to see that she's used to the new
She's
couch. I
getting
just added this
comfortable.
brand new couch to my abode. um,
Period.
but uh, yes. So the the law of attraction will pretty much create situations that work in your favor. Obviously, you're gonna have bad situations happen, but you can make the good out of the bad situations
Mm,
by adjusting how you think about it. And
mm,
the term that he had said was um, feel good always, feel better later. So it's like always just try to feel good for the sake of like that same concept of gratitude. It's like, why shouldn't I feel good? I am still existing. I still exist. I still exist. And it's
like,
like,
it
I
didn't
also
kill
want
me.
to,
I'm not like.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Like, if it was, like, I'm not going to lie. Like, there are certain circumstances where I'd be like, that it's a bad situation. And, like, I can understand the difficulty of existing in a very complex and painful type of world like that, and like you're trying to escape, which because like imagine if you were living in North Korea like that. that whole place is like, because of all the negative energy that has been created around it, the whole place itself is kind of like hell. So just being there, it's like shit. Like you're automatically like, fuck, how do I get out of this? Like it's gotta, I gotta. That's like the general conception of it. But at the same time, like I
I'm sure
feel
there's
that
people that are happy down there still, that know that they're in that environment, but that have that
they're
intrinsic
making the best.
strength.
Exactly, they're making the best out of that. They're making the best out of their existence. Of like, hey man, even though it sucks, I have like some people here, or I see my neighbors. Like, you can find ways to make things so you can enjoy your existence, no matter how long, no matter how short. As long as you enjoy it, I think it amplifies the energy. So it's like when we pass on our physical bodies, then like the law of attraction is gonna bring you back as like an even greater being from the last time. So I think it's like it's a constant evolution of states, and I think it's also because sometimes I wouldn't doubt that like we wouldn't need to be humans. So say my next life I'm a cat, but if there's something I'm supposed to learn while I'm that cat in that next life. So it's like there's some kind of knowledge, something I'm supposed to gain from it, and then after that I'm say back to a human again, or it's like it's a consistent passing. But it's like if you live your existence of like pure gratefulness, pure feeling good, the that same sense of like that Buddhist oneness without actually going through that extreme state of meditation. That I feel it's of the same thing because it's like you can appreciate the value of everything just being. The fact that this sheet is here, the shirt is a shirt. These beads are a thing. Like the beauty and the joy you can have in the fact that anything exists is something that can always keep your energy going forward. That will also kind of help you intrinsically kind of
Stay
grow. So
grounded.
like the more, yeah, you stay grounded. You start appreciating existences more. You start appreciating your existence more, and then you're able to perceive the greatness in all things, and then it helps you find what great things like whatever great thing that you are at will literally start to just start forming in front of you, and you start being able to just do it more because the more freer mind has become, or the more freer being has become, you allow the things that are of you to start showing themselves to you more. I also have another. There's a quote that I've used. You probably heard me say it, and like that's gonna be my forever quote. Um, Put a positive spin on a negative spiral.
Mm, Asher,
That is
positive
my
spin
motto
on
to
it.
life.
Yeah, a lot of people really need to hear that right now in their lives because, yeah, you got to turn
Thank
something
you for
negative
that.
into something great.
Yes, there's always something you can gain. You can always gain something out of any situation that you come across. Everything that everything that exists in front of you, no matter what direction, you can always there's always something that you can gain in a positive way for yourself and for the situation.
Depends on how
It's
you
like
look.
depends on how
So,
you
is
look
it
at it.
fair to say that people really need to start to reprogram the way that they think, the way that they talk to themselves,
To
their
themselves, yes.
because we've all
You
been
can't
programmed to think a certain way and to absorb certain things a certain way. But we all need to know our own way of dealing with these things that we're absorbing and feeling and accepting.
I feel that the way is the same for all of us though. It's that we gotta like not come down upon ourselves. Appreciate the fact that we failed at something. Don't come down on yourself for failing.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate that you failed in order to learn greater.
You failed at something and learned it.
Exactly. Or you
You're
failed
not
it
going to
so you
fail
can
at it
learn
again. You
something
failed at
better.
it once.
Yeah, exactly. You still exist. You still have the ability to keep learning. So it's like you failed at that thing. Okay, I failed at that thing, but I failed at this so that this other opportunity I can do now. I can put more focus into this now I because I failed at that. Now I've got more time to do this. Oh, it turns out I like this thing better. I can do this thing way better. Da, 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 da. I feel that is the direction we are coming to. I feel like a lot of people really right now are really getting to that point. Like the way our world has tried to shape things for people is to numb ourselves, which is terrifying. Because
That
like
is terrifying. That's like what the metaverse is
absolutely,
about too, right? Like it's a
sorry.
way to have a place for people who can accept the reality to escape into a different one.
Yeah, like it is
And
good
it's not
and
what its
bad.
initial purpose is, because
Oh,
there's a
it's a
lot of great things to
virtual.
it
Yeah.
at the same
Oh, you can
time.
yes, you can
Because of the
utilize it.
perpetuated negative energy that's been flying around everywhere, it's almost like terrible timing for it. Because the
But I
reality we're
also
having
agree.
has been so.
I, yes, because it'll make people escape more. But at the same time, I think if done correctly, can also help those same people connect with people more. So be able to connect with people more, be able to improve their skills of being able to talk to people without actually being outside to talk to people. It'll help them understand who they are, hypothetically, of course, because we still live in like the internet world where it's like you wouldn't know who that person from the metaverse really is, right? Like if they're creating an account that's like outside of anyone that's a known account, then we wouldn't know who they are. We wouldn't know what they are. So their being would be entirely uh, separated from the real world. And then like if they came into the real world, but they still had like I guess an undesired feeling towards the self, then it might get worse if it's not balanced. Like I feel that there is a way, depending on like what's created, because like thinking about things in that metaverse, that meta realm, like we could be doing this there. Like there can be a whole bunch of different like directions of anything. Like there's gonna be stores, shops. You can go into stores and like buy stuff. Like there's gonna be a whole bunch of ways where it makes things more functional. You can meet with people, your friends from across the world in certain places. So it's like there are parts where it works and it helps the expansion of minds and expansion of self because you're actually like creating a thing. And like who knows? Like maybe that's the thing. Maybe that's the thing that those people needed, right? Like you find that group in say the metaverse, and then, like that happens to be the group where you guys can all work on an idea. You do something together, and like it changes everyone's lives. All of you guys can meet up and like actually start doing stuff. Like there's a lot of room for potential, but there's also a realm of like I guess shitty paths for people who aren't paying attention to themselves. Like I try not to focus on that realm because I understand it exists, but my personal aspect on it is that it won't be as bad because like I feel even now with like social media as we have it right now, like even people today are understanding that social media is a problem even within themselves. They're like it's fun, but it's also like a time consuming drain that actually does nothing, or it'll get your energies get messed up. So it's like the more people start to notice, they start noticing themselves. Like I think that's like that concept of intrinsic. Like it's there is something in us that still tells you you shouldn't be doing this, man. You shouldn't be doing it. You shouldn't be doing it until you kind of worm your way out and be like, you know what? Nah, I'm not going to do this anymore. Like you have a situation where you kind of fall back. Like I guess the one that's a little bit harder to deal with would be drugs because it's like that like changes your brain directly. So it's like that's a little bit harder. Anything where you have an addiction,
Mm.
like a very hyperized level of addiction, which I also believe that still comes down from trauma.
Yeah.
Something happened and you're trying to escape everything, and it's like you can't. You can't go forward without it. Like,
That
yeah,
makes a
and
lot
like
of
I
sense.
guess even then, sorry.
I was just saying that makes a lot of sense. Like
Yeah.
trauma is definitely hugely linked to just any type of obsessive behavior where you're overdoing something that is not working in your higher good. I mean, we've all been there.
Overindulgent.
And maybe
Yeah.
not everybody, but I know I've been in that spot too where I'm trying to, hibernate certain feelings that I don't want to deal with,
Yeah.
masking it with
Yep.
three blunts at a time.
Yeah.
Those words. But
Oh yeah.
at the end of the
Getting
day,
quality level shit faced.
I feel like your personal life force, like your soul, your higher self, puts you up to fight with yourself
Yes.
for it to get back its intrinsic value again.
Yes. Yes.
Because it's like in that I wanna use it, I wanna refer to it, but like in that movie Lucy, where it's like if you are not putting forth all the things that your physical body needs for your soul to stay habitated within your body, your soul is going to consider your body an inhabitable environment and want to
Yep.
leave.
Want to leave.
I want to leave. Like your higher self is
Yes.
like, I don't want to do this no more. Like, if you keep smoking, if you keep drinking like that, if you keep not eating, if you keep eating like that, like, I can't be
Yeah.
here with you.
I think that's like the strains of what depression is. Like that's like the what depression is. It's like your soul is trying to escape because it's like you're fucking this up. I gotta get out of here. So depression is like the your soul pulling away from you. So you're like you're slumped. Your energies are low because you're not within yourself because you're
So
trying
you're
to
like
escape.
destroying your inner binding force.
Yes, 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 exactly. Because our like so the intrinsic value in that same binding force is like what keeps our bodies, our minds, and our souls able to even function for us as beings is a binding force. The fact that we just don't rip outside of our skin and just be like nothingness but everything, like and like just like Lucy's. That is the binding force. That binding force is our container, our realm, and it's like if we start to slack somewhere inside from any of the three. So if you're not keeping a balance between your body, your mind, and your soul, then your soul's going to try and leave. Your soul's going to try and leave, and then your mind is going to try and escape, which usually is what happens. People go insane. You lose your mind. You have mental breakdowns. Like your mind tries to escape. Your soul was trying to leave first, then your mind was next. And then the finisher is the body where you actually die. So it's like that's that's that path of like not trying to find yourself. And then what happens after that, that's how I say like that would be the the spiritual realm of like hell. Because it's like you were lost between the trifecta of your being, which is body, mind, and soul, while you existed. So because you were lost and then stopped existing, it's going to be so hard for you to find yourself again. All three parts have to come back together. So you're going to be like, yup, you got two parts this time. Oh, you got one this time. Oh, you only got this. So like what beings you'll turn into, you start becoming bugs and all this. Like I think that's why bugs exist and grow so fast because I think what they do is they inhabit like in the reincarnation realm, they inhabit the souls of like other beings that are lost. So that's why you see like we try to stack the numbers between like insects and us crazy high, and they spawn like huge mass colonies of like disgusting creatures.
Like what species of insects is like more than like double 10 times the Earth's population of people.
Yeah, yeah.
Just for
Like all
power.
humans and all animals, all humans and all animals combined can't even touch like one species of bug. Like like everywhere, like one type of ant. But it's like I feel that's also within that same thing. It's like the energies are it's like because that's the thing. Those things usually only live like a couple of days too. Like not many bugs really live that long. So their
Yeah.
existence now, right? Like, and think about how many times. So they get to recycle like that a few times until they start to like, hey, wait a second, didn't I have something more? And then the intrinsic forces start to pull back together, and then you start to get bigger, and you start to wait on a second. Hey, I'm a cat now. Hey, wait a second, and then it's like until you're like, whoa, okay, I got a human body again. And I think there's like, it's like we keep doing that, and like it's our endless um, form of existence.
Okay.
Like the process is always continual growth. It's forever existence into the being. And like obviously the ending state is like you become like in that movie Lucy, you pretty much turn into like fractal dust, which is like not necessarily a good thing, but it's also not necessarily a bad thing. But because it's so like the idea is like you want to have a balance between the two worlds, between your intrinsic and extrinsic, because that way you have a bigger range of your binding force. Because that means you can now fathom and control things within that realm. But if you go too close to the center, then your being becomes so great that you essentially become God. And at that point, you don't need to exist, but you do, but you don't all at the same time. And it's like, there isn't necessarily anything wrong with that type of existence, but if everything existed like that, then it's like that. It's like the physicists' fear of like they or I guess they tried to like remember when we were kids like the whole talk in science about the expansion of the universe and they used to be like oh the universe is going to keep expanding until it collapses in upon itself. No, it won't. But like theoretically, it can though. It would collapse in upon itself if it all became centralized and it became one thing because it'd just be one. It would just be one thing, and it will always, which wouldn't be anything wrong because like it would just we would just be like a flat line symbol, but
I was just
because
gonna
we were
say
all that
ultimate
flat
void.
line, yeah, exactly. It would be an ultimate void of just all at once. That's just the thing. All of the, but like there isn't I feel like the reason why we exist the way we do is because it's supposed to be growth. It's supposed to be creative. It's like in our DNA. The fact that we weren't just babies and got stuck like that. It's like the fact that we kept growing. It's like there is there is a there is just a simple knowledge to that. That is like the basic. That is the binding force of the universe. The universe's intrinsicness is the universe is yin and yang. Is um, uh, chaos and creation and
Mm.
everything in between is the binding force, and we are a part of that in between. So if we consider like the grand universe, God, whatever you want to call the center of it to everywhere, we are of that binding force for that thing to even exist in for itself. So like essentially, to it is already the one, and it needs us to remain as parts of the binding force for that one to stay
Yeah,
stable for it.
that makes so much sense. Yes. Everything has its purpose in the place that it is for its divine reason, for its divine time. Like when someone feels like they don't know why am I going through all these things? Like it's because the universe is preparing you for bigger things. Like
Yeah.
when we have that innate understanding, life feels way more whole. It feels way
Hmm.
more fulfilled, and then your fears are pretty much washed away. Your
Gone.
doubts don't even
You have no
exist
idea.
anymore.
Doubt's gone.
Those
That
things
was one of
don't
my
exist.
biggest worries. That was one of the biggest problems I had is doubt. Like that was one of like the my most recent epiphany of myself was like getting rid of self doubt, limiting my being, limiting my growth out of like fear of my growth, which was Same,
Have the
right?
courage
Yeah,
to
yes,
pursue even with the fear.
exactly. Just keep going forward. That's the trick. And like to be honest, like I also feel like that's kind of like what our world has been kind of created to do to a degree, right? Like even think of it right now. Like not going to state what's going on, but to give like a vague example, the current state of the world we are in right now is confused, and a lot of it's due to fear mongering.
Mm.
It's pushing that realm of fear so that it adds more doubt. Now people doubt themselves, they doubt each other. First it's doubt each other, then you're locked, then you doubt yourself. So like the self doubt is supposed to keep things down more so. Not exactly sure why. I'm not going to go into details of why, but
No, we are not.
but
So
it is
let's
there, and there are ways out of it, and it is through understanding yourself. When you understand yourself, you're also able to kind of like sniff out the bullshit of life. You can be like, I don't know about this, and like you also get that feeling in terms of like in terms of people, graphic is like you can alter. We can alter things. So it's like if you increase your domain, you can alter things, but at the same time, there's also limits to that, right? If someone or another an extrinsic being or an extrinsic situation can be to a degree where you like it is outside of you. You can't there's nothing you can do about it. Like you just accept it. You have to accept those realms for what they are
yeah.
and how they exist and like exist accordingly, but with a humbleness and a respect. Because like even at the same time, like think about it this way, like someone's trying to fight you, you can still approach that fight with a humbleness and respect and still beat the shit out of them. This is like the approach. Like
Yeah.
you can be like, look, like this doesn't have to be like this. You can be like whatever. And with the humbleness and approach, like you see how lost they are to try and fight you, the person who did not want to fight, and like you beat the shit out of them to teach them a lesson of shouldn't do this. If I was a darker version of myself with what I know or how I could have handled this situation, you could have died. It could have been worse. It could have been this. It could have been that. So it's like utilizing utilizing that humbleness, that sense of self. You're also able to kind of like give give an s or what is it? You're able to give or be true to yourself rather. That's it. You're able to give yourself the strength and truth. You're still following an intrinsic value,
Okay.
which is like your truth.
So how I wanna bring this to a wrap up now because we've been going for an hour, and I want to end this with a concluding statement. So we conclude our information today that in order to truly feel whole and purposeful, you needed a balance of the intrinsic self and the extrinsic self in order for there to be the binding force,
Your realm of the binding force, yes.
the realm of the binding force. Okay, okay, okay.
All
How you
right.
feel?
I feel great. This is a very good talk. Like it's cool that like we go on or are able to talk. I enjoy that we're able to like actually talk about this too, because like I know you and me have had these conversations for many years, and like the whole idea too is like a lot of this has been like felt energy
Yeah,
before knowledge. Because we've been talking like this since we were like younger, and like we'd have as we got older. Obviously, the conversation got more in depth and much more deep, but. we had that same value of humbleness for the universe and like humbleness for that knowledge that just keeps kind of just coming in where we can just kind of feel what things are.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a good feeling because it's like you don't need an like I said, you don't need an outside commander to tell you what is. You just know. You just
Hmm.
feel it inside, and now that we're at the age that we're at, I feel like all of the information that's been like coming in, like the downloads have now been put in a more organized fashion where we can actually
Yes.
communicate exactly what it is in like juicy form,
Yes.
without it
Yes. Yes.
sounding
Yes.
like we're confused and we don't know what we're talking about kind of thing. So it's really
Yeah.
nice to definitely share the space with you to communicate these in deep down in our souls. We've had this knowledge for a long time and now we can finally just like
Just let it out. Yes. Exactly. Yeah. All right, cuz. Um, and to everybody, I guess we'll be back here. Thanks for joining. It's a little late, but we do have audio recordings of these. We have them set. We'll probably add them to Spotify or YouTube until we can get like separated video. But we're gonna keep doing this over Instagram every Wednesday at 9 o'clock. You're gonna have the Intrinsic podcast. You're gonna have us just jumping in. So, guys, I'm just giving you all a heads up. So, we're going to be back up next week. Wednesdays at 9 p.m. is when we have our Intrinsic podcast. We're going to be getting the audio posted onto YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify. And then from there, we're going to start having our videos and we can have it all on YouTube so you can kind of tune in to find out what happened on the last episode and whatnot. We might also be increasing our episodes, but we'll see how it goes in the future.
we'll see
All
how
right.
that goes.
Once.
That whole episode disappeared. Instagram was just like, nah, you talked about too much stuff in that one. So maybe next week I won't have so much of a
Yeah. Well, it was good. Fred, I can't feel ring.
yeah, I'm on blacklist right now. I said too much last week, so we're gonna definitely do this again next week at 9 o'clock
Yep.
sharp. Don't miss out. We'll have our logo and everything next week too. So y'all be ready for it.
Yep. Yep.
Thank you for coming and participating and showing us love. We just might show you some love.
Thank you all for coming.
Stay good, blessed, loved, and keep taking in those downloads, y'all.
And as I always say, put a positive spin on a negative spiral. If you're ever feeling down, there's always a way to spin it good.
Uh,
All right.
thank
Have a
you.
good one. Bye.
Peace out.